and it is something that continues to be one of the best investments. I love when I have the opportunity to go in and teach in college classes and start talking to, our rising talents about if they could start investing today, what that might mean for their wealth down the road, what that might mean for their future legacies, what that might mean, to even their retirement portfolio, and more than that, just a place to be proud of and a place to make memories. So, if you are considering a career in real estate and you'd like to learn more, you're welcome to reach out to me direct. There's so many avenues too. If you don't think the sales piece is something that you want to pursue, I landed in the management side and have been managing and being a coach and a trainer now for the greater part of probably the past 17 years. And that's been very rewarding, working through our agents. But, I'll kind of jump to what I think the role of a realtor is today, particularly as the pandemic came through. And in many states, we were declared essential business providers. And being able to do that, that was a sign from our government as well as our health officials that providing housing was critical to our infrastructure. It was critical to recovery. It was critical to also, and I never thought about this, our homes have been, for most of us, the greatest asset that any of us will ever own. But when the pandemic hit, here we were in March, and the place we were all called upon to shelter in place, to do our part to curb COVID was where? Our homes, right? And so all of a sudden there was this attention on how would we pivot? For realtors and companies that had the digital infrastructure in place that we probably weren't leveraging as we should have. We could have been doing buyer consultations via Zoom all these years. We could have been meeting with a client in California. Austin, I could have been doing a consultation with you if you were about to move to Atlanta, with the power of Zoom. And, we were probably waiting, until you came to Atlanta to meet with you. We might have been sending you packages or maybe sending videos, but I think what the pandemic did for us was it expedited our ability to communicate more effectively. And we'd had some questions about, how has the presence of, iBuyers, the instant offer buyers, and Zillow and Redfin and Opendoor, impacted the traditional business model. And I think what it's done is it's made us all refine how we're delivering the experience better, swifter, taking away more pain points for the consumer. We've learned that we can do this digitally. We can do this remotely. The power of video came into such a play for us. We were doing virtual open houses. We'd always known we could. We'd always talked about doing them. And in the matter of a couple of days, we were actually giving tours to buyers and sellers beyond just a 3D virtual tour that we'd had a professional photographer go out. We were out there totally safe, totally compliant, respecting social distancing, and safety and health always came first. But we saw we were selling houses, or at least getting them under contract in our state, sometimes even sight unseen. And then with the proper safety mechanisms in place, the qualified buyer that was pre-approved, serious about the home, then would enter the home and be able to look at it. So I think for us, I heard it said recently that what the real estate industry had in place and was on the cusp of innovating might have taken another 5 or 7 years for us to expedite to. And it happened in a matter of weeks as we were called on as essential business workers to figure out, just like takeouts and restaurants were figuring out how to have curbside delivery, just like, restaurants and grocery stores and healthcare workers, we had to figure out how to pivot. So from that standpoint, as we come out of this, particularly here in Atlanta, we have seen sales in the trajectory to continue to grow. It has actually, for our particular company, we have seen record-breaking months, like many of the real estate professionals in this city that stayed committed, one, first and foremost, to safety and health. And making the home buying experience safe. Attorneys in our state were able to start doing, refining the process and getting the closing down from what used to be an hour and a half to 15 minutes. And we were able to do more with digital. They still, in our particular state, you are still required to go in person. But again, it was a more greater efficiency. The lending process, people were communicating, they were collaborating. So to a question that was poised earlier before today, what does that mean? I think it's made the real estate transaction safer. Yeah, I think it's made it swifter. I think it's really helped us communicating with our clients in a manner that we are having to ask a lot of questions first before we just start going out and showing properties. We're talking to sellers a little bit more about the experience. And so I think we're getting more qualified buyers and sellers that were really serious about being on the market. For the home offices that we all had to pivot to, learning how to have lighting and to be able to articulate on Zoom in any industry. It doesn't matter, real estate or what have you. I'm reading a book right now. It's on the back of my desk here. It's called Virtual Selling, and I highly recommend it to anyone watching right now. It's called Jeb Blount. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what line of business, as we've all, even today, I'm not before you in a group. I'm not, at an event hall. I'm not in New Orleans at the Alumni House. We're across the nation, and figuring out how to articulate better and more clearly, I think, is something. I know it's on my bucket list. I'm working and I'm practicing and I'm asking for feedback. Ask for feedback from the people you work with. We had that Zoom. How did it go? Can you give me feedback? We're asking our clients, how did this experience go looking at properties virtually? Let's narrow it down, because we're only going to go see 3 versus 30. We get so many compliments from our clients that are saying, wow, used to we'd be so exhausted after we saw 30 properties because that's just what we did. Now we're using the power of technology to really streamline the process. And many of our associates, my company in particular, we have 1,500 agents. We are all, for the most part, they are still working remotely because they have found out they can sell homes from anywhere, anytime. And so the offices, I do think over time, will become more efficient and smaller. The large, massive offices will may not be as relevant in the future. That'll be interesting to see if there's a return back. So I know with our company, we're kind of looking at the small, medium, and large, as we've actually done since the downturn of the market. We have some offices that are kind of designed for that very high mobile interactivity pre-shelter in place, and they were about 2,400 square feet. And then we have middle-sized offices that are 6,000, and then we have larger offices. But what we've not seen come into all the square footage, again, this was a question that was asked of me before today's call, was, clients are not coming in like they used to. So being able to have the video cameras and the digital experiences to make the home buying, viewing, shopping experience from home in the palm of your hands too. We all want it right here, right now, and being able to see that effectively. So those real estate professionals and the companies that were able to kind of translate resources into that, I think those will be the ones that it's just smart and it's what people want. So I've talked quite a bit. I know we're kind of on just about a 15-minute, and I really prefer kind of more interactivity and Q&A, and I know we've got most everyone muted, but I am more than welcome to just field some questions, or if you want to chat in our kind of closing minutes. But if this is, if you're on today because you're considering a career in real estate, let us give you some questions that you can think about if the career is right for you. It is commission sales, but there are different roles and different ways you can approach it. I know, for us, particularly for people that were impacted with COVID, we started offering scholarships because we knew people that particularly came from, strong hospitality backgrounds or restaurant and beverage or, event planning. They had this innate ability that they wanted to be able to offer that customer service and serve others. And so we're seeing an influx of interest, particularly with people that, were displaced during the pandemic, looking to get into the business. And I'll just kind of close out that I think, if I had that fortune ball, yes, the numbers are there over, 1.4 million realtors in the nation. I think there's over 2 million people that have a real estate license. I think just like in the downturn in the market, the past 6 months, you are seeing the true professionals, the committed professionals, the people that take this serious, the people like, and I see Gail out there, that love this business, and aspire to really help people. You're navigating so many different pieces in a transaction. It's not just going and finding beautiful homes. There's the problems, there's the appraisal problems, there's the inspection problems, there's the financing hurdles you've got to get through, there's the negotiation, there's working with, now low inventory that we're dealing with in comps, and with the advent of some of the hedge fund companies that have come out with a lot of investment capital that are really kind of changing the portal search process. We're aligning with them. Zillow, I was just actually on a call. We have a strategic partnership with Zillow. We value the fact that they have come in a beautiful way and been able to leverage technology and transform search in many regards. And so to us, we look at how each of these new entrants is helping us all work smarter and to respond to what the consumer wants. And that's probably the biggest message, if I could impart with anyone that's in the business now or thinking about it, is we've got to be nimble, because our consumers are changing in every infrastructure business, how they want to be, served and communicated with, up close as well as afar. So, Lori, anything that you would like to ask or open up, I'm more than happy to help.
We do not have any questions in the chat at this point in time, but I will say I just relocated to New Orleans from Chicago and sold a condo and rented an apartment sight unseen here in New Orleans, and it was quite an experience. And I'm sort of interested to hear if you think that moving forward, that if we'll go back to the place that people want to see 30 properties, or are we really we're gonna peel back and say more is going to be done online, and people will visit fewer properties moving forward and just see what is interesting to them.
Great observation. And I truly believe that it's going to continue to evolve into more efficiencies. Just like shopping right now, if you want something, you're able to go on and you're able to order it. I do believe that the role of a real estate professional, not just someone that's, I use the word sometimes, a hobbyist that's doing it part-time, but I do believe that because of the complexities of the transaction, having someone that can help you sort through all the information, all the pricing that's out there now on the internet, only a true local professional can really help you understand that market and help connect you with all the other players that you need to the transaction, and particularly when you're buying, kind of weed through, the myriad array of options that are on the internet and guide you to what really works for your lifestyle and your fit and your budget, and save you time. On the seller side, again, I believe that the real estate professional is going to be the one that is going to be able to take some of these algorithms that are out there and some of these numbers that a lot of times our sellers are now seeing online first, but really help you almost like a research project, understand what's happening in your market locally, understand up to the minute so that you can pivot, because the markets are constantly changing, and then guide you through the complexities of the process. But I do believe that with the technologies that have been there, but they got expedited, and we've now become to realize how we can make a more seamless process. I'm so excited about the efficiencies, and it's going to again rely in the hands of those that are willing to make this their true profession, and not just be a hobbyist, because it's changing fast and it's going to keep changing. So that's why I love it. After 25 years, it's a joy. It's a real joy.
I imagine some of the people on our call today are interested in real estate as a profession and maybe switching from other fields. What are some of the transferable skills or other fields where you see people could really, who are considering it as a field, should think about as they're weighing their options?
I'd be happy to address that. I had the pleasure last year of serving as the president of Atlanta Realtors Association, which was 10,000 members. And then I serve on our exec for our Georgia Association, and I also serve on the National Association. So I really try to keep my pulse beyond just what's happening in my company, but nationwide. And if you look at some of the nationwide statistics, still to this day, the average realtor nationwide is 56 years old. Now, we're seeing that age come down. We are seeing a lot of Gen X, Gen Y coming into this with the passion and the spirit. They love the flexibility in the hours. They love the ability to, that there are no limits. And particularly if they come from, the ability to, if when you hear no, that just challenges you more because it is sales, it's commission sales. But if you view it from a place in your heart, I've always said that to me, it's not sales, it's serving others. And if you love the ability to meet people, if you love the ability to like watch somebody's dreams come true, to have somebody that, you, Lori, in your scenario, when you were relocating down here for a new job to a new area, having the ability to like connect you and to get you ingrained in the community and to be part of that next chapter in your story, that's really rewarding. You will learn all the basics. And for anyone, of course, coming from Tulane, we are more than qualified to be able to get in there and get your license and be able to pursue it. But where I see the differential in those that really succeed and those that, maybe not so much, it's where the passion comes alive for wanting to meet people, help people, never meet a stranger, connect people. Great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Tipping Point. And if you've not read the book, put it on your read list, because it talks about, that there are certain people that are the mavens. They are the experts, MAVENS, mavens. And then there are other people that are connectors. And I think in real estate, what I've kind of started to view myself as is maybe this was the right fit for me, because I love connecting people. I love connecting, people to whatever they need and making that kind of glue. And so I'm always on a mission to find the expert, the expert appraiser, the expert lender, the expert attorney, the expert, person that knows the building, the expert person that knows the local community, and then I try to soak it up. And I may not know it all, but if I can find those people and try to help connect, then it really becomes a rewarding experience. So I hope that helps a little bit. And there's some great books too that I can share if you want to message me about, if you're considering a career in real estate, things to ask a broker before you get into business, and questions to ask, because the sky's the limit in terms. And I see we've had another question. I'll just read it. Let's see, that a lot of companies are starting to reduce the office space. Sarah, this came from you, that they need. What do you think the impact on the real estate market will be? And do you think there will be a pivot to converting commercial to residential properties? Great question. My MBA was in commercial real estate. So although I'm primarily a practitioner now in residential, I really do study what's happening in the commercial spaces. And much like with the downturn of the market and the housing bubble, we saw the impact on commercial space get impacted. It was a little bit of a lag, but it happened. And we definitely, I'm always the optimist for anybody that knows me, but there's no question. When you've got large shopping centers, you've got large buildings, you've got large office complexes, that now, they are saying that the work staff is going to work from home at least into 2021. What is that going to do to some of the businesses that I'm seeing as I drive home, going out of business signs? I mean, that's just the reality. I wish I could fix that. I know there's a lot of us that wish we could fix that. What it's going to convert to, what it's going to look like. I know there's some really brilliant people out there that are already starting to talk about turning some of these places into, Amazon warehouses and having more local distribution centers or figuring out what needs there might be for pivoting. So I do know this too, as somebody that's always studying. I help our office with a lot of the openings of our new offices, and watching the pressures on the dollar per square foot in commercial office space. Where it is today, there's already downward pressures on them because there's so much supply opening up. So seeing where that goes, as well as the amount we need, what we're looking for in office spaces right now. We just opened up an office, actually signed the lease last Friday. It's 1,500 square feet. Prior to that, our average office was, well over 6,000, 8,000 square feet. We had some that were 10 and 12,000. So yes, great question, Sarah. I hope I answered it.
I'm actually interested in hearing about sort of the real estate bubble, particularly in large cities. As more people are working remotely, they're paying high rents and high mortgages to live in cities, but now they may not be restricted to living. Like, what do you think is going to happen to some sort of city living, and how's that going to affect real estate prices across the country?
It's really interesting. The National Association of Realtors is starting to do a lot of education on this topic. And again, we all wish we had that fortune ball, but our economist, Lawrence Young, we're really trying to study, where we see this is going to happen. Because even here in Atlanta, I can tell you, we have had, clients recently who wanted to only live in the city because the commute time, even 12 miles, could be an hour and a half. Now, all of a sudden, they're seeing their next foreseeable future being able to work from their home, being able to be anywhere, and to have that larger square footage, 3-car garage, 2-acre land, not be right in the congestion. We're seeing some of the preferences shift to that. We're also seeing, and you've maybe seen some of the memes or the infographics on social media, but what we're being asked for is homes where there's 2 offices, or homes that there could be a homeschooling room, or homes with more outdoor living, or apartments with a rooftop, or the ability to be out in the open more. It's more kitchens, open area spaces. I mean, it's been fascinating what we're already seeing in terms of what's being asked for. So, to the larger markets, to, Chicago's, New York, LA, to those where there has been such a, high density, and that also, I'm not an expert in COVID, but, you watch the news, those oftentimes translated into some of the hot spots, right? Because of just the density. It's going to be interesting. So, Lori, that's a great question. And I know there's some economists and a lot of researchers that are studying that right now. And, we are experiencing that even in our local market, which I'm a little bit more qualified to speak to from that standpoint.
Deanne, I wanted to ask about, you'd mentioned earlier in terms of the role of Zillow or Redfin, so the kind of the tech, right, the technology. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the crossover with real estate. So if somebody wanted to be involved in real estate, but maybe they are in tech, or are there other industries that you see where someone could use their skills and talents to kind of dip into real estate, but not be maybe a seller or within an agency? Does that make sense?
I do. And I can tell you, even this week, I have probably been on, 5 product calls that were technology related, whether it was through a CRM that is very real estate focused, being able to translate the ability to understand, customer relationship management tools and I mean, sort of drip marketing, and being able to stay in the sales flow and touch, finding those companies that are real estate related that are providing that's going to continue, I think, to be a high demand. Also, virtual tour companies. There's some platforms that are coming out that are doing, more with 3D. If you've got even a photography background or an interest in sort of the graphic artistry, but real estate appeals to you, that's another one. So much is moving to the digital space. I just was on a product tour today where it's actually being able to, through an app, being able to create an app, I think, is good for anything these days. But, it was to be able that if an agent needed assistance with showing within their company, they could, be able to schedule with another in their own co-op, in their own cooperating offices of their own brokerage. You wouldn't reach out. But from an efficiency standpoint, and again, to that, Sarah, if you needed to go see a house this moment and I couldn't get down to Buckhead, but my colleague could be there as a representative of our company, and always ensuring that, we've got all the proper legalities. I might just make your experience 100 times better because we're not having to wait till tomorrow. And in low inventory markets, the difference in being able to see the house, again, socially distanced and proper guidelines, tonight versus tomorrow might mean that you're the first offer in versus the fourth. So yes, there are many in data. For our Tulane grads that are big on data, I spend a lot of my time assessing data, making it meaningful, helping agents understand data. It's one thing to just have a lot of data out there, but to not make it meaningful. It's one of the challenges with some of the algorithm type companies that are just putting, data that's out of, public records online and saying, this is your price. you need to be able to really pull in a lot of different factors and a lot of different features, and it goes beyond an algorithm to be able to extrapolate that. So yes, there's tons of opportunities for that. And then you have an experience like that, you can really then translate that into your customer experience, if you do want to get out in the sales role down the road, or an executive role. I mean, the future there will be, and I'll end on this. If you think about the fact that the average realtor in the nation is 56, and probably the average executive is even, a little bit more seasoned than that, there is going to be an opportunity for that next generation of leaders, for that next generation of realtors, for that next generations of technology innovators. That is, even CFOs, they're probably one of our most valuable assets, to be able to ensure that we're right sizing companies, and we're, monetizing our value well and our expenditures. So I don't know that there's really any background that doesn't translate. We get a lot of teachers and a lot of nurses. And that tends to, I think, translate very well into this role, because of being the guide and being able to, field questions and really help people assess their needs. But every background is really can be suited for this.
Thank you.
So for people who want to get into the real estate field, where do you suggest they start? Like, how does one, where do they look for jobs? I'm sure you do a lot of hiring in your role. Where do we begin?
Well, I will just do a little plug, because as being very involved in the Tulane Alumni Association, I do think that our mentor programs and what we do is a wonderful way where you can just, pick up the phone and have a 15-minute conversation with somebody in different markets that came from our great university, and can just kind of talk to you like I am, just, not trying to sell you on joining a company, just kind of talk to you about the experience and what it is. So I would highly want to encourage doing that and networking with our Tulane alums that are in the industry, and just hearing from them, because they will talk to you, authentically about what it's like. Then I do think, again, it goes back to being local and looking in your local market. I do think talking to multiple brokerages, finding what is right fit for you. There are a variety of different companies. You've got to find what suits you, and they may be different from city to city. As I always say, it's kind of like a sorority. You might have joined a sorority. I was at Chi Omega, so at Tulane. But if I'd been at another university, that might not have been the sorority that I would have joined. So networking, asking consumers even in your area, who do you turn to? Whose reputation? I mean, you're dealing with people's most important financial investment. And then every state, of course, has a real estate commission that is part of the licensing process. And those are very helpful, as well as every state has an association website that can also give you some guidelines and some ideas. But those are my tips. But leverage the alums in our incredible network, because I know I've learned so much even about this business by being able to network with them.
And for the alumni on the site, you can access that network through through 2U Connect, which is available on the alumni site. And it's also where you'll be able to see a recording of this session and other sessions from Global Networking Week in the coming days. So if there's any sessions you missed, that would be a place to check it out. Are there any other questions from any of our viewers today? You can either pop in, turn your microphone off, or put it in the chat.
Nina had one last one, and again, it said, if I had that fortune ball, Nina, I wish I did, but with more people working from home, will residential properties in urban areas lose value? No, I mean, there's always going to be a demand. I really don't. I mean, I would hate to. I think that what is going to happen is over time, construction and new starts are going to really reflect what the lifestyle of tomorrow's homeowner is going to want. And so we may start to see more rehab in different manners. We may start to see, again, I think you asked this early, Lori, or I forget who asked it, maybe it was Sarah, that when you see some of the larger commercial spaces, if they do have long-standing impact, or if it's a quick, is it going to be a V or a U? How will that impact real estate? Will we see unique housing opportunities come out of some of the larger spaces? I don't know, but I hope to be a part of this industry and watch it and help everybody navigate. And that's why you've got to look locally, talk to somebody that's a local expert, let them help you understand. And at the end of the day, real estate, and right now with interest rates as low as they are, my best probably advice I could close on is if now's not the right time for you to buy or sell or invest, please do me this one thing. Call a lender, look at what your interest rate is on your current property. You may be able to save hundreds of dollars, if not more, by refinancing right now. And that money can go towards your generational wealth, to your next home or your next investment. And it's something that, gosh, I mean, it's a way to prove America's strong, and housing's at the core of it. So do that. Promise me you'll do that, because interest rates have never been this low. And although I want them to always stay this low, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. So I just refinance myself too, so I can try to practice what I preach. And I'm excited to have that extra money so that when I can come to Tulane again, I can spend it on a trip back to my hometown of New Orleans.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. If there's any other questions, I'm sure Deanne would be happy to take them. Sarah, Nicole, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Deanne, this was awesome. I think this, I mean, honestly, I had an assumption of like, oh, okay, I'm going to like learn a lot about the real estate, but I feel like I learned about just like so much more. So you're just such a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much for your time and energy. Just in terms for Lori's point about questions, the app is going to be live all week. And so if you, we end this call and you have a question at 8 o'clock tonight, just post it on the app in the session Q&A, and Deanne or one of us can get to it. So thank you, everyone.
I actually do have a question, and I apologize for being late. I was in another one, another session. But when it comes to commercial real estate, I can't help. I see, unfortunately, more and more vacancies there. And I wonder if there's talk, or if you have thoughts about what's going to happen to those. If, retailers will go back, will they become, I've heard people talk about like hotels becoming senior living facilities. What thoughts do you have on that? Because I always wonder.
We're hearing the same. I mentioned a few moments ago, I've read something that, and Amazon warehouses were starting to look at going into some of the vacant shopping centers and being able to convert that. The senior living, which with the, number of baby boomers that are at that age where senior living, and now more than ever, my father's in assisted living and memory care, and I know, the social distancing that's needed there, and the different amenities, and trying to be able to have more grounds to be able to go outside. I think it is going to revolutionize the commercial space. For those of you out there that are visionaries, and that may be another place for you. As I was mentioning earlier too, I think in construction, we're not going to keep doing things the way we always have. It is going to innovate, and it's going to make things more efficient. I think, movie theaters, people will fly. I hope so. I hope we get a vaccine, and I hope we can all go back and do the things. I hope our children get to do so many of the experiences that we did, but I do think this experience has taught us to do things smarter. To look at the return on investment. And when we have this massive square footage, is that where the infrastructure needs to be? Or does some of it need to be like in our world, we're putting some of the infrastructure that we used to put into the bricks and mortar deeper and deeper in the technology, into the experience we're delivering to the consumer, and being able to provide it to this consumer where they want it. So I think there's going to be some really fascinating, and I bet they're going to come from Tulane too. I just feel it. Some of the most incredible innovations as to how we will repurpose and reposition, and still stay an incredibly strong country. But will we continue to see massive office buildings going up? I'll be interested. If so, I'll be even more intrigued to study the business model behind it and what they're doing. And is it all being done with, kind of social, because I think we're all going to be more respectful of even just getting the flu, moving forward, and what we've learned, and that maybe our overall health could be better by some of the lessons that we've had to learn through this, challenging, unprecedented times. But I'm going to throw in one more challenge, in addition to going and checking your interest rate, if you're one of the students at Tulane, or if you're someone on this call, be thinking about what we've talked about today. It's stimulating, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm doing a lot of reading on what people are way smarter than me, those mavens that we talked about, are predicting. You know, but yes, as I drive home and I see a lot of businesses going out of business, and knowing this is my space, it is really, it tugs on your heart too. What will happen? And I'm grateful that there are a lot of people smarter than I in the commercial space that are looking at it. But we want to be able to continue to bring people to the housing, to the area. We are still seeing some group moves happening, and that's being fascinating from the relocation standpoint, to see that companies are starting to look to relocate businesses, and where are they going to be putting their plants? Where are they going to be putting their offices? Are they going to continue to put them where they have in the past? Are they going to be looking out into more outer lying areas? Will they keep a lot of their employees back home, or from wherever they were coming from? Or will they relocate? With Atlanta, Hartsfield here, we do get a lot of people because travel was easy, particularly to go international. But if that doesn't return quickly, and they can do the same conferences via Zoom for a fraction of the cost of having everyone get on an airplane and go, although I still believe nothing will ever take the place of being in person. But that's just me.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if you got any more questions through your chat. I didn't through mine, but thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thank you to Deanne Golden. We appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us and with Tulane alumni. And again, we hope you enjoy the rest of Global Networking Week, and you can continue to use the Hoop app through the week to see these sessions and ask questions of panelists, both of Deanne and other panelists throughout the week. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.